Do you suffer from chronic knee pain? It's awful, isn't it? It hurts with every step, and it can really put a hamper on you being able to do the things that you want or love to do. But the good news is that fixing knee pain in many cases can actually be fairly simple so long as you dedicate yourself to a daily postural therapy routine. Today we're talking about knee pain from the perspective of Pete Egoscue's book, Pain Free, the revised and updated second edition. Specifically, we're talking about knee pain under a condition called externally rotated femurs. Now, your knees are intrinsically located or connected to your hip, right? The knee bone connects to the hip bone. And so when we talk about the femurs, the position of them can have a huge impact on the function of your knees. So these are externally rotated femurs. Let's go ahead and take a look on how to self-diagnose if you have externally rotated femurs. So how do you tell if you have externally rotated femurs? Well, I worked for a long time to get my femurs back from being severely external to being pointed straight ahead like you see here. This is a fairly neutral standing position for me, and this is how we should be standing. Now, you see that both my kneecaps are pointing straight ahead. I had to pull my shorts up like Steve Urkel to get here, but you can see they're pointing straight ahead. What you're going to see with externally rotated femurs is often it'll be accompanied by everted feet. See how my feet are pointing out? Duck-footedness is kind of the layman's term for this. But what you can really see is that you can see this inside edge of my kneecaps, and you cannot see this outside edge of my kneecaps. I'll go ahead and zoom in on it so you can see that as well. But this is really what this menu is geared at fixing. Now, this routine for externally rotated femurs with knee pain is on page 102 of that pain-free book. The first exercise is Flexion knee pillow squeezes. Second is static back. Third is cats and dogs. Fourth, static extension. Fifth, standing quad stretch. Sixth, standing forward bend. Seventh, cats and dogs. And finally, progressive supine groin. Now, this is a little bit of a longer menu just because of that progressive supine groin stretch at the end, but the good news is I have a whole video for each of these exercises, including that progressive supine groin, to make sure you're doing them all properly. Go ahead and check out the cards or the description down below for links to all of the full instructions for all of these exercises. The first exercise is Flexion knee pillow squeezes. Now, Flexion knee pillow squeezes looks pretty similar to another exercise I've covered on my channel before, just sitting knee pillow squeezes. You're seated in both of these exercises, but there's a big difference between the two. In the regular sitting knee pillow squeezes, I maintain that large arch in my lower back, as you can see on this video. But this isn't what we want to do in this specific case. In this exercise, it's called Flexion knee pillow squeezes because we are putting our entire spine into flexion, meaning we are rounding that lower back, rounding the thoracic spine, and we're going to be sitting in a slouch position. And what we are doing here is really getting the adductor muscles out of the gait process, because if you are having problems with externally rotated femurs, your adductors are often going to be kind of involved in this swinging motion when you walk due to imbalances in your hips and your knees. And this exercise is really geared at reducing those imbalances. The next exercise is a simple one, it's static back, and really it's more of a position, not even a stretch, just a really comfortable position for most people where you're laying on your back with your hips flexed at 90 degrees and your lower limbs resting on a bench, a chair, or an ottoman to where your knees are flexed at 90 degrees as well. This is a passive exercise. It's one of my favorite positions in all of postural therapy, and it's great for eliminating imbalances in the hips while reducing compensations in the upper body. Next is cats and dogs. And with cats and dogs, we are really working on pelvic and hip function, but we're also going to be propagating these changes that we've just made in the lower body up through the spine, through the shoulders, to the head, using this sinusoidal wave-like motion. And I know that lots of people are familiar with cats and dogs from yoga, but a lot of people also do it wrong. You know, a lot of people just kind of get this up and down motion with the shoulders, and they use the shoulders to drive what's happening in the upper body. If you are having problems with cats and dogs, be sure to check out my instructional video. It'll show you how to get that sinusoidal motion that is really going to help propagate those changes from your hips and your pelvis up through to the head. Next is static extension. And static extension is a great exercise because we are working on a number of postural problems all at one time. First off, we are reestablishing the proper S-curve of the spine. You notice that my lower back is drooping down, arched heavily. My upper back has that proper convex curve to it. And we're also working on scapular retraction, bringing the shoulder blades together by letting that upper body droop. We are also strengthening the shoulders to some degree, and we are putting a neutral balanced load on the hips and pelvis. This is a great exercise to do after cats and dogs. Next is standing quad stretch. Now, standing quad stretch is a great exercise for obviously stretching out your quads, but there's a lot more going on when you do it in this specific position, because when we do this, we are promoting bilateral function in the hips and the pelvis, and we are also critically promoting bilaterally equal function between your hamstring muscles. That's right, you've got more than one hamstring muscle in your leg. So we call it hamstrings. And especially if you have femurs that are rotated in or out, you're going to have imbalances between those hamstring muscles. And we are really going to be working on getting those in balance while also promoting that bilateral hip and pelvic function. This can reduce pelvic tilt, this can help promote thoracic extension, and it's just great overall exercise if you've got tight quad muscles. Next is standing forward bend. Now this looks like a fairly simple exercise, but there's a lot going on. We're really promoting pelvic stabilization and also bilateral function of the whole trunk from your lumbar spine up through your neck. And that's because we are using the back muscles to do their proper job and getting rid of compensations in the hip flexors. So this is a great exercise to do for people with externally rotated femurs, because usually that's going to be accompanied by very tight hip flexors, and those hip flexors can get greedy and start doing the jobs of a lot of other muscles. Next is cats and dogs again. I've already covered that, so let's get on to the next one. It's progressive supine groin. Now this stretch is isolating your primary hip flexor and elongating it and getting rid of the dysfunctions in that hip flexor and the compensations that it's doing by stealing the function of other muscles. I don't have any quick tips on the screen for this one. If you're not familiar with progressive supine groin, I really suggest you click on the card or check in the description down below for the link to the full instructions for this video. You can get started with a step ladder, but you can also see I have this wooden device that's called the Egoscue multi-positioning tower. That's really the best way to get this stretch done, but if all you got is a step ladder, get to it on that one.